Coyote. Now, Nigeria has one of the lowest net electricity generation per capita rates in the world.
More than 55 years after independence, Nigeria remains stagnated with only about 5,000 megawatts of power generation capacity. Now, the power situation has impaired socio-economic development, and the country's population of almost 180 million now relies heavily on generators for electricity supply.
Now, we are joined now by the publisher of Energy Times, Kayode Ekundayo. Kayode, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, nice to see you.
You just, there's a little thing she said, since independence until now, 55 years and running, we have never generated electricity above 5,000 megawatts.
And Mike, in addition to that, in reading up on this, I came across a piece that said 2 generator sets were actually the very first sources of electricity for the Lagos Protectorate, that as far back as 18-something. That's about 100 or so years. Yet we
More
have
than 100 years?
Yes.
We're still running generators as it is right now. But give us a picture. Now, we have statistics we'll roll out there as we get along. Most of these power generation stations generally have capacity of sometimes 500, sometimes 200 megawatts, and so on and so forth. Can you give us a background why we have these challenges right now?
Okay, honestly, I'm not surprised that we are here where we are today. You remember that we are just coming out from military rule, and during that period, nothing was done in terms of power supply generation. You remember Egbe, started by Sagari and concluded by Babangida. Since then, we've never had new power plants being established or refurbished and all those things until recently when we have democracy. So you can see the trend. It was during democracy that we were having increase in capacity of power generation. As I said, during Sagari, we had Egbe. During the democracy, Obasanjo, we have a number of power plants. So you can see the trend.
We had the NIPP.
So we have NIPP. So it was during the democracy period, that was when we were building up our power plants. During the military, and you know that we were run, the country was being run for almost 20, 30 years by the military. So at that period, there wasn't any improvement in our supply. There wasn't any thinking to do anything reasonable concerning our power supply until recently. And that's why we've been battling with this 5,000 megawatts. It's not that we are currently at 5,000 megawatts. If you look at the state of power generation now, today, we are getting over 8,000 megawatts right now. But because of the challenges we have, for instance, the TCN, that's the transmission lines, are weak. None has been done since independence, shortly after independence, when we do the transmission line. None has been added to it. None. No improvement. Even the generation companies are generating power now, and the distribution company are asking them to step down. Stepping down what they are generating even upon the challenges we are having. So you could see there is a little problem that we are yet to solve in terms of power generation and transmission.
Okay, Kayode, we'll come back to find out exactly what the missing link is. But let's bring you more insights to this. Now, these are ways through which, electricity is generated the world over. Fossil fuels, that's coal, oil, or natural gas, hydropower, water turbine, nuclear power, that is steam turbine, and solar, and of course wind. Unfortunately, Nigeria does not really adopt many alternative sources.
Now, Nigeria mostly employs gas-fired and hydroelectric turbines for bulk generation of power, unlike the USA that combines various sources of energy to generate power. Now, for instance, the USA generates 39% of electricity from coal, 27% from natural gas, 19% from hydro, while wind, solar and others cater for the remaining 7% power generated.
In Nigeria, the generation companies, we also call them GenCos, are directly responsible for electricity generation. There are about 23 grid-connected generating plants in operation in the Nigerian electricity supply industry, with a total installed capacity of 10,000 396.0 megawatts and available capacity of 6.056 megawatts.
Yeah, that's about 6,000 if I have to put the decimal that way. Now, Egbin Power PLC is Nigeria's largest plant with a capacity of 1,320 megawatts. Now, the combined installed capacity of the three major hydropower stations as Kainji, Jebba and Shiroro, the hydropower from three major plants accounts for about 1,938 megawatts of total installed capacity and at available capacity of 1,060 megawatts.
Okay, look, let's look at it this way, Coyote. Nigeria has about 176 trillion cubic feet of proven natural gas reserves. Now, that's one of the top 10, in the world and the highest in Africa.
Yes.
We've just pointed out that the United States, for example, uses about 27%. It actually gets from, natural gas and, of course, other sources like solar, wind, which we have in abundance. I remember living in Jebba, for example, where you have the Kainji Dam, close by. The wind, every now and again was just amazing. To think that this is another source of electricity. Question is, why have we not been able to, tap into these sources?
Okay.
And still, rely largely on hydrocarbons.
Okay, we started from coal, from Enugu. It was very strong at that time. Military came, they forgot about it. We started with hydro. It was during the democracy when we have the regional segregation. That was when we have the three hydropower stations. But because, they are running by water, that's why they were able to stay till now. Because the maintenance is not as expensive as that of the diesel FPSO which we were running in the past. Now, based on the recent development in terms of Nigerians' eagerness to get power, we are moving from normal using diesel to generate to gas power. And unfortunately, what is happening now is so disheartening in terms of seeing our pipeline being bombed by Avengers. I can tell you, it's highly discouraging for investors to come into our system today, foreign investors, to say they want to put in money down based on what is happening. We are the largest producer of gas in Nigeria, and that is why the NIPP came into being. And all the power plants established during the Obasanjo time were all gas powered. Today, they are all on stream.
But let's not
work.
forget that under the Obasanjo administration, Nigeria spent about $16 billion on the same electricity that we're talking about. And
no, something happened.
What happened?
Something happened, and I will explain to you. All these power plants, they were 10 power plants, gas powered. They were all started during his time. It's not something that it can be completed within a span of 2 or 3, 4 years. It took some days, some years, even to order for equipment to come, to fabricate in form of the design of that particular plant. And that was the reason why we couldn't get immediate response or results during his time. Now, the power plants are already done now. Unfortunately, the gas to
power them,
it's not available.
Okay,
and I can tell you over 3,000 megawatts are just stuck because of this challenge.
Let's listen to the former president himself on this issue, because he recently, talking to journalists, he talked about and covered this issue. Let's hear former President Olusegun Obasanjo talk on this.
If I had money, I would have paid more attention to energy than I did. Now, by the time we had money and the price of oil was $50 and above at the time, we went into independent power production. And we wanted to produce about 5,000 megawatts of electricity, which should have been online by 2008, if not by 2007. My successor thought that that was not the right thing to do. He stopped it for a year and a half. By the time he woke up to try to get it going, he was no more. Up to now, I don't think up to 2,000 megawatts of it is completed. Now, that is the sort of thing that I wish we have been able to get going, because we will not make the type of progress we should make in Nigeria without adequate supply of energy.
You just heard the former president there talk about the trend that time.
Yes.
As far as the plans he was putting in place was going, in fact, you mentioned that during Obasanjo's regime, the issue of the NIPPs came on board, and from what he said now, they were supposed to, by now, we should have had.
Honestly, it is something that is very painful, that when Yar'Adua came, honestly, he stopped it, and the issue of probe came in, and a lot of things went wrong at that period, and this thing went on for 1.5 years. We saw a lot of unnecessary probe, and at the end of the day, the National Assembly even went up to probe themselves, which is a total waste of time. And we lost, for instance, many equipment of this power plant rusted at the port. Some of them could not even, some of these equipment were ordered for. Because of the probe, they couldn't get to Nigeria at that time. Until recently, based on the initiative of Jonathan combining with the president, they were able to quickly bring in this equipment. So that agreement signed, because I talked to the people in charge of this, and they told me many things. Contractors, they sign agreement with at certain particular price at that time. And you could hear what the former president said. He said $50 to a barrel at that time. Now, by the time they reopen the discussion about this thing again, price have gotten to $100 per barrel. So you could see the effect of that delay, that unnecessary delay.
So the cost of importing these things had increased.
Yes, even the personnel you are bringing to the site must have changed his or mind to say, no, my cost of production has risen, because we didn't follow the agreement, and government actually pay for some of these. Some of these things. Because I saw it, and it's very painful.
So
Nigeria
we lost
a lot of money into it. We lost a lot of opportunity into it.
Nigeria does have a lot of problems here,
yes,
especially where we
inconsistency,
yes,
we follow up on things
and all
of incumbency, thinking that we are not doing the right thing. You know, if we have had consistency in our policy, possibly where we are today, we won't be there. We won't be there at all, because
beyond
by now
the policy consistency and all of that, the fact that let's even assume that all other factors are actually in place, and all of that, we have the money to do whatever we needed to do to improve power. Nigeria still largely 99.999% has to depend on importation of the heavy-duty equipment, turbines, and all the rest of them, if electricity is going to work. Now, which opens us up to a lot of vulnerability. If some countries decide that they're not going to deal with us at that level,
they will definitely do with us.
If they did, where does that leave us? Shouldn't we be looking seriously inward now in terms of the technolowill to even build
and fabricating
fabricating this heavy duty
equipment? I agree with you, but it will take some time. It's not an immediate thing. We have to, like what India and even China did to the US, because we were taught in school that they have to go and copy what they did. We have to do something, and I'm a champion of that kind of thing, that we need to copy technology know-how from all these developed countries, though it takes some time, and I know we will definitely be there. But right now, we depend on those international producers, and a lot of things are into it, because you talk about forests, you talk about the availability of equipment there to be able to do it, availability of personnel to even to manufacture it, to even to your taste, and it takes time to bring it to Nigeria, and all these things work against our interests. So I believe with time we can achieve something like that. But honestly, if not because of the probe that came up at that period, by now we will have had stability in power supply. But unfortunately, the transmission line couldn't have taken what we produce. As I said, distribution company will be telling generation company to step down certain units so that there won't be any system collapse.
And speaking of the transmission, the TCN, we hear that the contract with Manitoba,
it's just for maintenance.
Maybe
it's just for maintenance. It's not to construct new lines.
Okay.
Its responsibility is still under the federal government.
Yeah, but is it not still where the problem is when transmission is still in the hands of government as against, the GENCOs and DISCOs?
Nobody is ready to pay. It's not generating any money. Where are you getting money from transmission to transmit from your line? How are they going to calculate it? It still has to be in the hand of federal government. And federal government has to spend a lot of money to expand the transmission lines. It has to. If not, we'll be having this challenge. All the effort of government will be in a total waste. By the time we generate 10,000 megawatts and there is no power, there is no line to transmit them. So it will be a total failure.
Okay. Now, analysts say Nigerians buy about 100 billion naira worth of electricity generating equipment annually. Now, this means that Nigeria buys 3% of the global power generator equipment.
Wow.
That's really big.
Nigeria's power crisis was heightened when in March this year, power generation collapsed to 0 megawatts for about 3 hours. And as a result, distribution companies couldn't dispense power to consumers.
Now, the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, says Nigeria can generate 12,000 megawatts of electricity, but meeting that target has been difficult because out of over 140 turbines, only about half has been able to get gas to work with. Okay, now let's get into the greed issue. We'll talk about national greed. Anyone who we hear that there are some independent companies that have their own power source, as the case may be. Sometimes even like in Plateau State, for instance, there's an independent power, and then they generate and then sell some by putting some on the grid and all of that. That grid system where power generates and then you put it into the grid and put it into the grid, is it working as much as if these things were decentralized, where each region, the region by region, has its own power source and so on?
There is a problem in the interconnectivity of our transmission line. We are linked together. So if we are going to do it in regional to regional, it's going to cost another strategy in terms of we are going to rewiring the
it's
whole
like starting
system.
everything all over again.
We have to restarting rewiring. But as you said, concerning the power collapse, we've had 19 system collapse between January and now. It's not 3, 19 between. The last time we had was June 28 this year. So the system collapse coming up is not the fault of the generation company. No. It's not the fault of the distribution company. The system collapse usually happens based on the transmission lines. So if government doesn't do anything concerning the transmission line, we will continue to have system collapse. Because, as I said earlier, the system that we are piping, the power is going through the grid is too weak. It's too weak. And as you said, if the minister said something that 10,000 megawatts, we can generate it. Even with the level we have now, with the level of power plant, we have 10 IPPs on ground now. Now, that is aside from hydro and aside from the independent, like the one Azura, the one in Benin. Then look at other small data, all those small. Now, by the time all those ones start working, how do we go to make them get into our homes if there is no improve on the national grid supply?
All right.
And
now,
then,
you talked about 8,000. You said about 8,000 megawatts is generated right now, but it cannot be transmitted because the capacity is not there to be able to transmit what is generated to
the 8,000 I'm talking about. They are hook somewhere. Only, for instance, as at this morning when I checked through, it's just 2,000 megawatt plus that we are generating. If the gas is available, the country can hit 8,000 megawatts because all the units will roll out. But if the unit roll out, where is the line to withstand it?
Indeed. Now the China state grid, we're told can actually attract some billions of naira. Why is government not looking in that direction?
You see, I think because government is not even talking about it at all. I think what government is trying to do is, first of all, look into generation. They've done the distribution. We don't have problem with distribution. And the distribution they have done is they've unbundled, like privatization of the distribution company. So we are okay with that. Generation is what they are battling with now. Let's have power plants that can generate. But my only fear is that if we now have the power plant that is generating power, now how do we now pump it out?
Do we even have data really to measure or review the current status of energy resource that Nigeria has?
Yeah, we have.
So that you can actually,
because each of, for instance, we have it in Osogbo.
Measure demand and supply. And all of that.
Yes. Before you, even in your community, what the distribution company are doing now, in each community, in each area, there is a meter, especially in the unmetered communities where they are being used as estimation centers. What they do now is they have a central metering point where they go every month to look at what has been taken to this community that have been consumed. So if they don't have light, it's not going to reflect on that. I've seen it. It's just a small box. Anybody can look up to it. It is what they now shared among those communities. And that's why you will see some houses we have higher, some people we have smaller. So that is what they are doing. So they know what they get the quantity. I mean the number of megawatts sent to each person. So there is a meter for it. So there is a gauge. They know everything is going on. And anybody can even go to their community on the top of pole in between it. There is it there. So you can even check and even know what it's all about. But my only fear is that bringing light to this unmetered community is not regular. That's what I've investigated. The distribution company seems to be giving people that are metered power supply than the community that don't have meter. That is the estimated communities. If you notice it, I want anybody to go and verify this. This is what I've conducted, and I discovered that it's actually true. A union member made the allegation of it, and I confirm it. If you come to Magodo here, you will see light, because factually all the houses here have prepayment meter. Go to where there is no prepayment meter, you will see that you won't have light, because they believe that prepayment meter only pay what they consume. And they know that the estimated people will only pay, they can give them any estimation. Yeah, exactly. And they are the only one who has access to that meter I talked about. So because you are not there, you don't know what it reads, they can give you any bill. And you have to pay, because you know that it's a national power supply, and it's much stronger than a generator, which you have to service regularly. So I think that is what is happening, and that is what I don't really like. And the minister is doing enough. It's time. He said all the houses should be metered, and this is reasonable. For instance, in Lagos, I learned that they are doing it step by step, and I'm wondering how old will it take us to meter the community? Each of community in Lagos State, for instance, when they are being charged arbitrarily. I mean, a room and a parlor, you are asking to pay 5,000 naira per month when there is not even light. But when you have a prepayment meter, when you are not there for 2 years, you are not going to be metered. Exactly. Nothing, your card will be with you. Just come here and slot it. And that is applicable everywhere. Go to even Ghana, go to Benin Republic. That's what they use, prepayment meter. Because it saves a lot of money. You enjoy the light when they come. If they don't come, you put on your gen. You know you are not going to spend any money extra.
No, it's very curious. I mean, the question has been asked, as to who really stands to lose and who stands to gain if Nigeria's power sector works optimally.
Every one of us will gain.
Should gain.
Every one of us.
The should is ideal.
Yeah, it's ideal. Everyone.
But in practical terms.
No, everyone will gain. Everyone will
Are there any losers?
There won't be any. Who will lose?
Because there are those who say, look, the cabal, the so-called cabal behind generating sets, you see the figure there.
We are mistaking this cabal. There is no cabal. I'm not
indeed, operator. There is no cabal, but there is that situation where people make a lot of money from importing generators and actually selling. You saw the figure we put up there. Billions and billions of naira spent on generating sets every year. Now, should government, as some analysts actually recommended, that government really should tackle this particular cartel, to maybe give them some kind of soft landing or comfort that, look, if we get power off the ground, your interest will still be protected. You still stand to gain at the end of the day, in spite of the fact that you will be losing a lot of money because there won't be any market anymore for.
No, is there any allegation that they are the
generators.
one obstructing the power supply?
There have been such allegations
There have
in the
been
past.
such unconfirmed
and I'm
allegations.
surprised
Yeah.
you're going on like
I've had it.
never heard
I've
it.
had it. But
Good.
I must tell you, people, that it's difficult for importer of generator to go and meet a distribution company and said, because we are importing generator, please don't give my community light, or they go and vandalize pipeline. It's possible for people to go and vandalize if they are bribed to do that. But for disco company to do that based on the friendship of where somebody is importing, I don't believe that. And
It certainly won't happen like that.
Yeah, it do happen. But then the issue of cabal, I mean, I don't really believe. If it's like when you are a professional and a group of people know something better, people tend to call it cabal, which is not, to me, it's not the word. You can call them people who are in that business. They are in the business.
They have vested
They are
interest.
vested in it. And look at this distribution company. They bidded for it. Some borrow money abroad to invest in it. And when they were bidding, some of them didn't know the level of deteriorating state of the power plant. It's like when you want to buy a house. You will only see the fanciful house, you inspect it in a casual form. But when you bought the house, then you want to repair it, you now start doing the roofing, you remove certain things, and you begin to see that all the plank are already decayed. Now, if you have to start all over again and start doing the plumbing, in fact, you that are paying for it, you may not even go in there. You take a consultant to go and help you look at it. Possibly a consultant have taken some bribe and just tell you that it's the best house you need to buy. And exactly that is what's happening to the power plant. Some of them didn't know the decay of the power plants, and eventually they have to pay for it. And that is what we are today.
All right, but in all of this, sometimes, because the power sector is a huge
Yes, it's very
sector
huge. Yes.
that requires a lot of money, and certainly as it requires a lot of money, a lot of money can also come out.
Yes,
and we
yes,
expect that some of these players, some of these big players, should have been able to take advantage of the fact that this is a very good, especially seeing that Nigeria is a great market when it comes to whatever you throw in brings back a lot of
You see,
returns.
the problem with us is that we are not patient enough. We want action every point in time. 3 years ago, we are not here where we are today. These guys bought this. I always plead to Nigerians to be patient. Look at before we deregulate the oil sector, we were all over the place complaining. Today, how many people you seen buying fuel? Though very expensive, but you drive in, you buy your fuel. Some filling stations are even selling below that now. I bought yesterday at 138.
Demand and supply.
Now,
is,
demand, yes. So,
I've seen somewhere 120.
exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
So
You need to show me
you
one.
could see that it's when the reason want to take it.
Yes.
People make noise. But when action has been taken, we hardly be patient to see the outcome of that action. And that
Okay.
is the challenge we have.
All right,
Kayode
Kayode Kundayo, thank you very much for coming on the program. We wish you well, and we wish Nigeria well as well, as far as generating power supply is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.